Hi, this is Elizabeth, one of the co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Strike three, you're out. Welcome to a brand new show of Caught Listening, the baseball show that goes beyond the game, and we could really use some baseball right now, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Between when we started doing this show, it was simply designed where we didn't need to talk about the headlines in baseball. We could just talk about the great game that it is, the history of it, the nuances of it. But I think I speak for everybody when we could really use some baseball right now, obviously, with everything that's going on. But out of this definitely does come some good, and that's what today's show is about, the good that is being done around it. And one of the ones that got a lot of run on social media and on some of the sports talk shows was Trevor Bauer, the Cincinnati Reds pitcher, in this little Sandlot-style game he put together in Arizona before they really dropped the hammer down on guys in spring training. And to help us talk about it, Chris Bumbaca, sports report for USA Today. Chris, we could certainly use some baseball, but it was definitely fun to see the initial things that came out of what Trevor Bauer did.
Yeah, it was nice. People were kind of hanging in that Saturday night with given everything that was on. I feel like that's when it got pretty serious for a lot of people, and I think that was the first night people were really starting to stay in. And yeah, I think he put on the broadcast about 9 o'clock, 9:30 East Coast time, maybe a little bit later actually, but. Yeah, it was fun to watch. He also launched the GoFundMe, which is trying to raise $1 million for stadium workers in Cincinnati that are affected by these sports stoppages.
He's been pretty vocal about a lot of different things this offseason, whether it be the Houston Astros, whether it be him tipping pitches in a spring training game. But this was one of those things where you love the personality that some of these athletes have, and this is one of those things that really kind of showcased Trevor's personality on a multitude of levels.
Oh, yeah, he's the guy that really wants to grow the game. I think that's at the core of everything he kind of does publicly and where his personality does shine through. And his company wants to capture personalities of baseball players because, in his opinion, the league does not do an adequate job of promoting these players and their stories and the personalities that they do possess. So, that's something that plays into his strength because I think he has definitely a strong personality no matter what your opinion is of him.
Of course, his company called Momentum, and to be honest, I couldn't agree with him more. I think Major League Baseball needs to do a better job of promoting their personalities and their young stars and their stars in general. But it was good to see, especially when you get some of these other major leaguers, guys that maybe, you know them, but you don't really get to know them because they're not stars. Tommy Pham is on the verge of that. Derek Dietrich is a huge star over in Cincinnati, and I know other guys like Mike Clevenger and Zach Plesac showed up in attendance. But what was it? You had a chance to talk to Trevor. What was it that he was, most excited about when putting this together?
I think it's kind of what we were talking about before with just showing the lighter side, but also that baseball players want to do good during this tough time, that they're able to come together as a group and put on something for the fans and still be able to connect with them, because even though fans aren't having that experience of watching somebody, because that's why we love sports. We feel like we connect with the players when, when we're watching them on our screens, whether they're playing, whether they're talking. So now that's, inevitably taken away by the circumstances. I think that's just what they're trying to provide is, some screen time, really.
Most definitely. What was did you get a chance to watch any? I've had a chance to watch it on repeat because I haven't really been doing anything. There's nothing else to really do. So, what was kind of your favorite part about it?
Probably the trash can in the middle of the field that they had there. No, honestly, the discussion was pretty good, and that's something that Trevor pointed out to me pretty quickly, and how maybe that's something that the league could actually do during their broadcast is have kind of like you see on a Periscope, those types of discussions maybe, and have a player come over and answer some questions. Like in the middle of the game. So that way you're not really doing like an in-person interview where the player needs to, dedicate, 2 minutes and answer these boring questions, but rather they can, actually interact with the fans, see what they want to answer and have somebody there, and they come over for 30, 45 seconds. And that's something that Trevor expressed interest in possibly exploring down the road.
It's kind of interesting you bring that up and that they did that, because this came almost a week after that ESPN had those games for spring training where guys were mic'd up, and you could get Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant having fun with each other, and Freddie Freeman goofing off and all that stuff. What is it, to kind of steer a little bit away from what Trevor was doing and what his company does? How do you think, Major League Baseball toying around that in spring training, seeing the kind of response that fans had for something like this? Could you see Major League Baseball implementing something like a mic'd up segment in the middle of games, or actually talking to guys live during the games like we see NASCAR doing with their drivers?
I mean, I think you bring up NASCAR right there. I think, even just starting out more basic with the NFL, like, and how they do it. I mean, it's not like that they're interviewing players, but you hear a lot of sound from it. I think you just start there even and have guys wearing mics, which they do now, but and then I think you take more gradual steps into the interviews. Mm-hmm. I think that it's definitely possible. You need the right guys and you need the right situations. I mean, it's easy to do during spring training, but
right.
If you're on game 161 and you're a game back, you really want a guy in your ear when you're trying to hold a runner at first base, and make sure that you're trying to be ready for a pickoff from the pitcher, and the pitcher's going to the plate now. So that's where it starts to get dicey, I think, for some guys. So a full-out commitment is probably a little ways away, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get there eventually, and shortly too.
Just talking with Chris Bumbaca, USA Today sports reporter here. One of the things I loved when you were talking with Trevor, I love this part in your piece on USA Today. One of the aspects of the event that Bauer found interesting was having online baseball personalities such as Coach Kent Murphy and John Boy on the live stream. Baseball, for as old as it is and as traditional as it is, there are some niche and some cult fan bases and cult personalities in the sport of baseball, and those are certainly two of them that the younger generation certainly knows, and the younger generation of players certainly enjoys being a part of things.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a couple great follows on Twitter right now. Shout out my guy Ben Porter. He's posting a lot of great baseball content these days, and is very informative and funny. And I'm a big fan of the Cespedes BBQ guys. Like, they do great stuff. So yeah, I mean, there definitely is like that younger generation of baseball fans that really wants to see, the other side of players, that wants to connect with them, that wants to be on the Twitch streams with them, that wants to, what kind of Pokemon that they're trading and stuff like that. There are these players do have personalities, and I think that as they start becoming the majority, and this generation starts becoming the veterans in the clubhouse, individuality is going to be a lot more common and a lot more, expressed and welcomed in these clubhouses, where it's usually, 25 guys but one mindset. Now we're actually getting into, some individuality like you see in the NBA, like you see in the NFL.
It's definitely something that's fun and enjoyable. And again, we talked about it earlier, but connecting with these athletes, that's one of the things that we as fans, really want to have, and to be able to connect with those athletes. I mean, just a couple of days ago, Brock Holt showing, video from his Rig doorbell camera, dancing every time he walks out of the door. That's just stuff that, you love to see, and you want to see more of that. So to see some of those guys who, Brock's been around the block a couple of times, but those type of guys to be able to integrate with what's happening right now and utilize social media to its fullest extent is certainly one of those things that can help grow the game.
Yeah, no, and social media has played a big role in it, and unfortunately, that's kind of a thing that some baseball players haven't. I don't want to say that they haven't fully embraced it, but maybe they feel pressure to not fully embrace it. I mean, some of the games, Mike Trout doesn't really tweet a lot.
Right.
LeBron tweets a lot. Christian Yelich doesn't really tweet too much compared to other, big time NBA players. For whatever reason that is, everybody has their own, preference. So, I think that maybe if, it was just more acceptable to do these things, and it goes back to what we were saying before, as you don't really want to stick out too much. Nobody does, even if you are a star.
Right.
Well,
because like we've seen, we saw with Josh Hader a couple of years ago, people will find some stuff on social media.
That too. Well, yeah, you definitely don't want any of that stuff on there.
Right.
That's for sure.
Definitely. So, well, let's
no athlete should at this point, honestly. Like no athlete should have anything like that because you got to get that. If you're famous enough, you got to get hire somebody to get that scrub for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right? if you haven't done that, I mean, listen, I took a job.
Don't tweet the things anyway.
I took a job a year and a half ago in a really small town in North Carolina. I say small town. There's 100,000 people in the town. But in an area where, working for a baseball team that I knew was going to bring a lot of attention, and I'm scrubbing back Facebook posts from 12 years ago, like 15 years ago. Like, if you're not doing it at something, you got to figure something out there to at least help your image. But definitely one of those important parts, of course, with connecting with all the fans. I want to get back to the crux of what Trevor was doing, not just to give people something to watch and give them some baseball, some fun, but what he's doing in trying to raise funds for the game day staff of the Cincinnati Reds. He's trying to raise $1 million on GoFundMe. He's currently just over 24,000 donations. People are donating everything from $5 to $1,000. You've got people who are just saying, there's one there, I'm a Cubs fan, let's just help one another, all this stuff. And you're seeing it throughout sports right now. But you've been to games in press boxes. I've been to games in press boxes, and we've both been to them on the field, in the stands. They're people you don't really see until they're not there anymore, and that is those game day workers. I mean, this is a big thing for Trevor.
Oh yeah, I mean that's really the driving force behind all of it is that. It's a tough time for some people right now, so I think that Trevor realizes the position that he's in and what he can do, and this is part of it. This is part of why he wants to demonstrate the goodness that baseball players are doing. A ton of players are raising money through donations and stuff, and this was also before MLB announced that all 30 teams will be, providing $1 million
right
for these stats as well, which is also great. But there's obviously going to be more to be done, and you can, it's easy to just say that here's this money and we're donating all this money, but you don't really know. There is always more that you can do, and I think that's what Trevor is trying to get across here.
And that's a big part. And again, a lot of these other athletes, Zion Williamson, Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA, J.J. Watt and his fiancée Kaylee Ohtani, they're doing stuff as well for a bunch of game day folks. But when you see not just players, but then you see an entire organization like Major League Baseball, which is a business, at the very crux of it. And one of the things that I think people find a very, very difficult to delineate is that personal to business relationship that you see from major league organizations. But when you see an organization like baseball and they're able to get all 30 teams together to do something like this and to do it rather quickly, we're less than a week away from all these things getting canceled, a week out from them all getting canceled. What does that show, or what do you kind of take away from that when Major League Baseball just pretty quickly is able to say all 30 teams are going to donate $1 million each?
I think that it's certainly a reasonable thing to ask of the teams in a pretty serious situation like this. I think that the leagues everybody kind of needs to act on the same page right now, and I think that we're seeing that with all sports really being canceled. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, is because everything is gone. So I think that everybody, as much action that we could do collectively, in the right direction, I think is a good thing, right? So I think all in all, making sure that teams are at least doing, mandating that the teams are doing something is a good thing.
One of the things that obviously, you also talked to Trevor about, or you saw, is the fact that, with the suspension of training camp, we have no idea when Major League Baseball is going to start. They've said they don't plan on doing anything until mid-May at the earliest, but Trevor's saying he'd need 3 to 4 weeks to really get ramped up. Is that something that, have you talked to any other players that are saying kind of the similar thing, and how long, if Major League Baseball says training camp's May 11th, that we could still be another month away from actual games?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing right now about, the facilities that are going on in Arizona and Florida, is that you don't know how much these guys are really going to be preparing for the season. They obviously can't, be dialed up to the point where,
right.
They're a week out from the season like they should be right now, because they're not. So they obviously have to, and that's what I wanted to get across in that story, was that, they just naturally have to fall back a little bit, I guess.
Right.
And when things do start picking up again, MLB will have to be pretty proactive in setting a date so that way players can get in shape for it. And we because now you're talking about shortened season anyway, guys getting hurt,
right,
stuff like that. As far as the timeline, I haven't really talked to any other pitcher in particular, but 3 to 4 weeks does sound about right. And as Trevor said, he is different than a lot of guys, so it'll probably have to be a month minimum if you really think about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as crazy and as unprecedented as times are, we have a little bit of experience with this, and it's another piece that you detailed for USA Today, explaining the 1981 MLB season and how baseball survived their shortened year. So, if you could attempt to try to give a brief synopsis of that, and we'll make sure that folks we'll tweet out the article as well, but a little bit of a synopsis as to maybe where we have some experience in this department.
Yeah, I had so much fun writing that one because I honestly didn't really know a lot. I tweeted the story out. That's what I said. I mean, it is pretty bizarre. So obviously, you had the strike right in the middle of the season because of it was like one of those last battles of free agency, like you said earlier. But so then when the owners decide that the winner from the first half of the season in each division is going to play the winner of the second half, things got a little crazy. And then the crazier part is that they never picked it up again. So a few teams ended up. I forget. I think it was the Cardinals and the Reds got particularly thought out in that situation. I think somebody else had the Royals made it with a 50-53 overall record. They had an incredible second half and won the AL West. I believe the Orioles as well. They didn't make it. The Yankees actually fired their manager in September and then made the World Series. So because they won the first half, had a terrible second half, and then just won 6 games in the playoffs to make the World Series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's just funny to look at that stuff, and it's insane. When you look at obviously the Dodgers getting there too, and just how some of that really impacts what the season was like. And who knows? We may end up having a season similar to that. I mean, you mentioned some of those teams, and I believe, if I remember correctly, overall, I think like the Reds were just a dominant team that year and still didn't make it because they didn't win either of the first. They were 66-42, and they didn't win because they missed the first half by a half game from the Dodgers and 2 games from the Astros in the second half. So there's a precedent for it, and it could get really interesting and really fun if we decided to go similar routes here in 2020.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to almost think about it with an off season in between now, right?
Yeah.
Because when are you split a season if you're starting in June, right? So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how it's looking. So that's going to be really interesting. I don't know if that's going to be how it's working. I'm really curious to see how they do it. I don't know if they move south for the playoffs and stuff and keep everything in Florida and maybe even take it to, if you're going to take it all the way down there, you might as well keep going and maybe explore it in one of the Latin countries. I think that would be a crazy thing to do, but probably pretty awesome. You talk about drawing eyeballs.
Start playing games in Puerto Rico, the Dominican, Mexico. Start playing games, wherever.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah,
could be a lot of fun.
The players' union would have a right with the idea. But hey, who knows? Maybe the younger generation of players will one day realize that the fans just want to have fun.
Yeah,
and that would be the most fun. That would be a really fun thing, or at least a fun thing to try. So maybe they'll concede to it one day.
Never know. And who wouldn't want to go play in a stadium named after Roberto Clemente in Puerto Rico? Who wouldn't want to go do that kind of stuff?
An all-time great that unfortunately is. Yeah, I feel like it's forgotten almost too much in modern baseball.
And the thing is, we think about him. We talked about Trevor and these other athletes that are donating so much. Roberto would have been at the forefront of all of this in terms of donations.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm Puerto Rican, so he's he's like an icon. So.
Yeah, He would have been tremendous at this. We're talking with Chris Bumbaca here, USA Today. Chris, there's a part of our show that we just get the fans involved a little bit and have some fun. It's called Pepper, like the old game we all used to play when we were kids with baseball. A couple questions from social media, and you and I just hit it back and forth real quick. Sound like fun?
Oh, sounds like a blast. Let's do it.
All right, so here we go. First one coming in. Joseph in New York is asking, what is your go-to baseball movie? Ooh.
My go-to baseball movie is actually it's a comedy. Major League, probably Major League 1 and 2. I like both. That's controversial, and I think that 2 actually goes toe to toe with the original. So that's my take on baseball movies in Major League.
You know what? I'm going to be with you on that one. That 2 is that close to number 1. 1 is still good, but is still better. But 2 is right there in my opinion. I think some of the interactions between Jake Taylor and Roger Dorn are great in Major League 2.
Oh, yeah.
For me, and this is very, very self-serving, I grew up a diehard Boston Red Sox fan, so any chance to watch the Yankees get a perfect game thrown against them at their own stadium with Vin Scully on the call, of course I'm talking For Love of the Game, which has everything wrong with John C. Reilly as a catcher, but is still, and it's such a long movie considering how short the book is, but I absolutely love that movie.
That's Kevin Costner, right? Yep,
it's one of Kevin Costner's trilogy. J.K. Simmons is the manager for some reason and was like ready to pull him in the 8th inning. Like it's not exactly a comedy by any stretch, but it's Vin Scully and he's got one of the great lines in my opinion that like if I had one question to get asked and get an answer to, I'd want to know if that line was written for Vin or if he ad-libbed it, which was just, a great line. So love For Love of the Game. It's a great movie. All right, let's see here. Brandon in California is asking, with no sports on, what non-baseball activity are you getting really good at?
Netflix watching. That's an activity, right?
Is that, I would think so, yeah.
I finished all of Love is Blind in a weekend. It was
there
awesome.
You go.
Save yourself. I couldn't look away. For me, it's been, I guess I'm getting really good at playing Madden again. Like, it's like I'm back in high school. Like, I'm just playing a lot of Madden right now. I have no idea. There's just nothing else to do, but I can't complain. And then last one here, you kind of brought it up here a little bit with Netflix, but without baseball, without sports to watch, what is the one thing you're most looking forward to watching? Man. Like when sports come back, or
I think right now. Like when you're
right now.
Yeah, if there's something that's been in your queue or been on your watch list for a while.
Oh, okay. So a couple things. The Sopranos for sure. I've seen the pilot, the first episode, but I've never watched the whole thing. So
you've never watched? Oh, that's on my list to watch again.
and I'm like a huge mob movie guy. Like I love Godfather, Goodfellas, you name it. So. That's we're going to be right up my alley. What about you?
For me, so I'm in the midst of watching Narcos on Netflix. I think, but I usually get like one episode a week in. I'm pretty sure I could knock out the whole series in 2 days. Other than that, I think I was saying this. I was joking around saying this the other day to my fiance. We also have Disney Plus, and the ability to now watch every Marvel movie in chronological order. Without any real delay is going to be kind of fun and kind of neat. But other than that, I don't know. Like I might watch House of Cards since I never watched that, or I might just go back to watching Entourage.
I did House of Cards, so here's my advice to you on House of Cards.
Yeah.
Watch. The first season is excellent. The second season, you're still riding high from the first season if you're going to be watching it consecutively. I was, kind of, because I watched the first season right before the second one came out.
Right.
And then maybe stop there.
Maybe stop after 2.
There's going to be like 4... Yeah, there's going to be like 4 more seasons. Maybe you watch season 4. You can definitely skip season 3, and then definitely stop there. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, and you know what? I might actually do this. I'm gonna make some listeners probably stop and unsubscribe after this one. But I still have yet to watch a single episode of Game of Thrones, so maybe I jump in and do that. I don't know.
Oh, you got to do Game of Thrones, man. Come on.
Fair enough. That might be what it is then. That might be what it is. Chris, we appreciate the time. Let folks know how they can follow your stuff and read your stuff and keep in touch with you throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. Follow me on Twitter at Bumbaca, Boombaca. That's not how I spell my last name. That's just how you say it. Yeah, definitely follow me there. I usually tweet my stuff out, and I have a link to my bio where everything I write goes there. So definitely appreciate that plug.
Chris, appreciate the time. Thanks so much. And, hopefully we get some baseball here coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, Christian, thank you for having me.
All right, it's Chris Bumbaca, USA Today sports reporter. Yeah, I haven't seen Game of Thrones, and I'm not that excited to. I don't know. Let me know. What else do you guys want me to watch during this stuff? What other things do you want me to take care of and see what's going on while we've got this hiatus of baseball? Hopefully it's coming around soon. Let us know what you guys want the show to be about, too. Baseball movies, history of baseball, books, whatever it is. If there's a story or an aspect of the game that you want to know more about, let us know. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Caught Listening by Public House Media, or email the show, caughtlisteningphm@gmail.com. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter as well, at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. Subscribe, rate, review, share us with your friends and family wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, visit publichousemedia.org for some great gear. Stay safe, wash your hands. Until next time, you've been Caught Listening.